Good evening, NFC South fans. It is Joe Riolano here with some of my closest friends in the NFC South. Anyway, we are here at Southbound and Down, bringing you another episode of the number one NFC South podcast. Um, So let me introduce my esteemed panel. It's the same guys that we have every week, and we know we can count on them. That's why they're my cash money crew. We will go with Aaron, if you will lead us off, please.
Aaron Freeman over at FalcFans.com. I'm on Twitter at FalcFans. Check out the podcast. I do two podcasts, Falcon Central Radio on YouTube with Scott Karasik. I do a Falcoholic podcast. You can find that at FalcFans.com or thefalcoholic.com.
Which I was just on this past episode, and I really enjoyed it. You guys do a heck of a show over there.
I appreciate that, Joe.
Gene, what about you? You were in Tampa over this past weekend. I can't wait to hear about that. Where can people reach you at, and what do you have going on, sir?
You can reach me at Super Heavyweight, and I did actually. It was interesting. I was supposed to be a guest on a radio show, and I ended up co-hosting the radio show because the co-host couldn't show up. So I'll have to get that link out there on Twitter so you can check it out.
Please do.
Cool.
All right, Mr. Greg Barber, you are in the house. Does everybody know how they can get at you?
Well, you can get me on Twitter at IntenseGD, and like I said, I'm always around. So feel free to follow me, and I will get back in there and follow you back. I got a few people that follow me. I got to get back in there and get going here. I'm following, but I will get followed.
All right, and Mr. T Money, you always go last, but that's because you're the man. So we gotta save the best for last. All right, Mr. T Money, 1993. Isn't that how you like to say it?
Yeah.
Let everybody know what you're up to.
Twitter, T Muhammad 23. Dropped the Falcons Hate Week video today. Go check it out.
Yes, you did. It was very good.
And then I will be bringing back on Friday Straight Facts with Mr. T Money, 1993. If you waiting on Miss Cat Chronicles, if Tony can be there.
All right. Well, I am Joe Riolano, as I said earlier. Southbound and Down is a production of Fan First Productions. That's the parent company to this show as well as the C3 podcast, which is the premier Carolina Panthers podcast, and you can catch that on Tuesday nights, 10 o'clock. Also, for any articles you're interested in reading about the Panthers, go to CarolinaCatChronicles.com. We put up the hottest fan takes, anything dealing with the Panthers from the fans' perspective. We've got some sweet three-peat shirts that we've had for sale since before the season started because we were very confident in this Carolina Panthers team three-peating. Now, if any one of us were to tell you that we thought we'd go 12-0, they are lying. So don't believe it. Getting to our show, last week was interesting, to say the least. We saw, I think the Saints team came out and shocked the world. I know they shocked everyone in Carolina for sure. But we'll hold off on that game, and we'll start with the other division game, which was Tampa Bay and Atlanta. And it was in Tampa. And Gene, you were telling us you were there and you co-hosted the show. What was your perspective or your take on that football game?
I was really happy with the Bucs play. They had some penalties, but they weren't as bad, and they did what they needed to do to pull the win out. And the one thing that I really appreciated is how they closed the game. They were able to finish a game. Once they scored in the fourth quarter, they were able to get a costly turnover at the end of the game that pretty much shut everything down. So just seeing the Bucs from the horrific game that we had against the Tennessee Titans week 1, and you progress all the way up to now, you really see where the offensive line is starting to gel. The fact that Gerald McCoy was not in the game and they were able to get 2 sacks was a big thing too. So a lot of the players that, next man up mentality, they really took advantage of that. I know you guys can, document all the times that I've talked about our secondary, but I think we're starting to get our groove in the secondary as well. Picking up Sterling Moore. Sterling Moore has played great. With the exception of the Indianapolis Colts game, he's played great compared to what we've had on the field before, from your Tim Jennings to, goodness, he's played good though. And trying to think of the other guy on the other side of the field, Jenkins. So you saw where he's really improved in the secondary.
Right, and that's good when you got a better secondary. That gives your defensive line a little more time to be able to get to that quarterback, and maybe that helped this past week. Aaron, on the other side of the coin, what would your take on this week's past game?
Same old Falcons. Just not playing great football. Matt Ryan had another costly turnover that pretty much killed their chances of winning the game at the end in the last 99 seconds or whatever to go. It just they look like the same team they've looked like the last couple of weeks. When now they lost 5 games in a row, and the season, I'm pretty much out on the season right now. It's just kind of like, okay, just Carolina put us out of our misery coming up this week, and I don't know. It's just they can't really get anything going offensively. They can't get anything going in the red zone. Defensively they were able to hang in there, but then Jameis Winston made that huge play at the end of the game, which kind of anything the defense did positive up to that moment is kind of erased when Jameis Winston can on a 3rd and 19 run down the field, get tackled, not get tackled, get up, and then run another 10 yards to get the conversion. And then like 4 or 5 plays later, they end up scoring the game-winning touchdown to Mike Evans, where middle linebacker Paul Warlow's covering them. It's the same old Falcons.
That was an unbelievable run. Did you basically lose your mind, Gene, on that run?
Yeah, I had some Falcons fans above me, and when Jameis got hit initially, they were like, they were both guys were in my ear, and I looked up and I thought he was down, and I see Jameis Winston coming around, and I'm in the corner by the end zone, and I could see everything. And those guys, they pretty much left. They left after the game, but just seeing that run right there, I mean, it just shows you this kid wants to win. And that's what Tampa hasn't had for a long time, is a quarterback that, I mean, that's what his reason for being there. He wants to win that game, and he took it upon himself to do that, and that's kind of what you saw.
Yeah, that was a great run. That reminded me so much of Cam Newton, where you think you got him, and even the fans think that he's down, and then he busts out of the pack and takes off and gets that first down. And you're right.
Cam's done that to us a couple of times. So yeah,
Aaron, that is so demoralizing.
It reminded me more of the comparison I gave Winston coming out. Big Ben. I can see Big Ben making a play like that, not really running the fastest, but getting what he needs to get, breaking the tackles. So I understand the Cam thing, but
I think you're right. To tell you the truth, the more you look at it, it would be Big Ben, because Winston's not quite the same type of athlete as Cam.
Yeah, he's not as athletic. He's not necessarily quite as fast.
Right.
He's still
big. He's still a big guy that can move well.
He can actually still run the ball. Even coming out of the draft, I've seen a lot of people question his athleticism. They think he would be able to hang with, because he didn't seem as fast as, maybe like an Andrew Luck or even a Cam Newton and those guys, that he wouldn't be able to like hang, be able to they felt like he lacked athleticism. I wasn't sure what they were seeing, because I saw him in Florida State, and he would run from defensive guys all the time. He ran the ball very well. I
Mm-hmm.
thought. I mean, at least decent enough to get you where you needed to go.
Right.
He's
He
not
made
a
a play.
runner, but he
He's
can play.
not really a runner, but he is capable of running if he
Right,
needs to.
right. And the
The
thing about
bottom line is he's faster than anybody the Falcons have on defense. So that's enough.
At least on that one play, anyway, right?
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean,
um,
he gets the job done. That's what it comes down to. He can get the job done.
well, Gene, what do you think you finally got to see more of what the Bucks offense will be like with Vincent and Evans? Did Jenkins play?
Yes, he did play. He did play.
Okay,
Yeah, he was there.
Yeah. So now you have Cameron Brate, who was a bright spot, which we didn't expect to see, and you have Austin Safarian Jenkins finally playing a full game, and they kind of had him on a snap count a little bit. So you didn't fully see him, but Vincent Jackson and Mike Evans everybody's healthy, and then you have Doug Martin. So hopefully, with all these weapons, the Buccaneers can do a little bit more, on offense.
right. Well, I did see that. Not Muscle Hamster. What is he like?
Oh, Doug Martin. Doug Martin.
Yeah.
Juggernaut.
Yeah, Juggernaut. Juggernaut had 95 yards and a touchdown, and I think that's vital to your offense. Is
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I mean, Sims had a couple of nice runs in that game too.
He did.
Yeah.
He really
Yeah,
did.
But I've watched Sims. I just wonder if he could carry a team like Doug Martin does. I mean, you know what you have with Doug Martin.
I think he's more
I-
a guy.
Yeah,
I think he's a commentary guy coming to rest Martin, but he can still
yeah, he's a change of pace back.
hit you for 10, 15 yards on a run if you don't watch it. You know what I mean? He can spell them. He can still hit a big run if you don't
I
watch
could see him. To me, he's more like a Kevin Falk or Shane Vereen.
it. Yeah, right. Exactly. Because I think they use him to throw the ball to a lot more.
Yeah, they do. They do throw him out of the back.
And the one person that really doesn't get enough credit is our offensive coordinator. And I know, like I said, I sound like a broken record. I've repeated myself on some things, but last season we did not have an offensive coordinator.
No.
We had a quarterbacks coach that was thrown into the offensive coordinator position, and there was no direction. So I'm not making excuses. We only won 2 games. It is what it is. But now having an offensive coordinator in place that's quarterback friendly, and he's able to help us move the ball down the field. Not to mention our running game is a lot better than it was last year.
Oh yeah.
I think we're really in a good position right now.
Yeah. Well, you got an offensive coordinator and a quarterback. Remember, because you didn't have a quarterback last year either.
Now,
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
McCaffrey can do a little bit of it. But
Stop it.
McCown played good for Cleveland this year.
Yeah, until he got destroyed. I mean,
McGowan? Oh, come on, man. Come on off that. Yeah, he was. He
yeah,
plays in spurts. He plays okay in spurts.
Yeah, but
He'll throw a nice pass here and there, and then he'll look like crap the next series. And
Yes, that's for sure. He's very inconsistent.
yeah,
but
That's for sure.
But what I find crazy is, remember the biggest thing that Atlanta complained about Dirk Cutter was? We can't run the ball. We're not running the ball. Doug Martin is what, second in the league in rushing yards right
Yeah,
now?
he's
49 yards out of first place.
So much, I guess, for Dirk Cutter not running the ball.
Steven Jackson and our bad offensive line had more to do with them not running the ball than
I would agree with that.
Yeah. In fact, you really didn't have a strong back. You didn't have a strong running back in those days.
No, I didn't.
Because Turner was on the downslide, and then you basically had the other one there from Los Angeles, from the Rams. I mean,
Jackson.
Steven
Jackson. Yeah.
Steven Jackson, who had pretty much
that was the main reason why the Falcons wanted to get him out of there, and then now they're running up a storm. And Doug Martin's a free agent this year, isn't he, Gene?
Yeah, they're really looking at trying to re-sign him. That's one of their big goals. Lovie Smith had mentioned that in one of his press conferences, that's one of their main goals right now is to make sure they retain him. I'd hate to see him end up somewhere else in the division, so I really hope they can make that happen.
That would be terrible.
Doug need to go ahead and cut Dirk Cutter a part of his check right now, though.
And Doug, that was the reason Doug Martin stayed in Tampa was because of Dirk Cutter. There's a big reason. Yeah, he said that was a guy he wanted him to be part of his offense, so it was important for him to keep him in Tampa.
Okay. Well, if money talks.
Yeah.
So all they gotta do is fork it over, and they can have him for a few more years if they want.
Franchise tag him, I guess, but
Or tag him. Yeah, that's the other option.
Yeah, that gets kind of messy at times too, though.
So Aaron, I know you talked this to death over the last couple of days. Aaron, I know this is all you've talked about over the last couple of days, so I'm sure you've dissected this game every way possible. And now we're asking you to once again regurgitate some of that stuff back onto the show. But where does Atlanta go from here?
You talking about the rest of the season or for like the next couple of years?
Yeah, rest of the season.
Because I seen a tweet saying something about trying to get Miles Jack. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah, I made that tweet. Yeah.
So you're talking about tanking?
No, I'm not talking about tanking. I'm just saying when we lose, there's the silver lining in when we lose, as opposed to we should lose.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take it from a 2-win team, man. I didn't like it. I didn't like it one bit.
I don't like losing either, but it's just one of those things.
And our fan base, that was a big thing. Was we got to lose so we can get the first pick. I didn't want to lose. I just hate losing. I hate every Sunday you got to come and watch the game, and you got to watch your team lose. It's not worth it to me. I'd rather win the game.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you on that, Gene. It's.
Oh, absolutely.
I think I want the team to win. I want the team to show some life. I'm not expecting them to beat the Panthers, but it's like against Jaguars and the Saints. I want them to win those games. But it's just a matter of based off of how they played these last like 6 or so weeks. I don't expect them to win maybe more than one of those games. So it's just one of those things where the silver lining in losing is maybe we get a better shot at getting Miles Jack. But for the rest of the season, I just think, I don't know, it just doesn't seem salvageable. Like we've been waiting and waiting and waiting for this team to get back to the way that they played at the beginning of the season when they were 5-0, and it just hasn't happened. And, their running game isn't as good as it was at the beginning of the year. The passing game certainly has declined. Turnovers are still a problem. The last 2 weeks, Tampa Bay and Minnesota both were able to run the football on us when, that was one of the strengths of our team was our run defense. And, Tampa Bay and Minnesota both were able to basically control the game with their running game and allow their quarterbacks to manage the game. Bridgewater really didn't make a single throw that entire game, and Jameis is big, made a couple of big throws, but his big play was with his legs. So at this point, it's just one of those things where I think the Falcons, I don't know, just whatever. It's just like it's on autopilot. I have no expectations for the rest of the season. They could lose out the rest of these games, and it wouldn't shock me at all.
Do you bring in some second stringers and third stringers and see what you got in them?
I think you got to do that with some guys. A couple of rookies that haven't really gotten as much of an opportunity to play, like Grady Jarrett and Justin Hardy, probably should get some more reps.
My question is, what happened to Rasheed Hagan? Is he hurt, or
I don't think Rasheed Hagan was ever as good as people thought.
Yeah, he was. People overhyped him, especially Falcon fans. They were comparing him to Richard Seymour, and I always kind of shook my head at those comparisons because it was like, if anybody had saw Richard Seymour play at Georgia, they would have never made that comparison. Richard Seymour was a beast.
When Rasheed Hagan was coming out of college, I remember, like, as far as for the draft, I had heard, like, a lot of stuff that's saying he was a little lazy, he took plays off, stuff like that. You kind of heard those things. You didn't ever hear this guy having a big motor. And I think that first year he was there, of course, being a rookie, he's going to do that. He comes in the next year, now you basically, I don't think he was nearly ever as good as what he thought.
Like, even watching your games, I don't remember seeing him out there like that. I thought he was hurt or something.
No, he's just
out there.
second half of the season, he really hasn't made the, basically, I always thought Hageman was a 3-year project, considering how raw he is. I've seen in past years where we've taken a really raw guy that really doesn't have any clue how to use his hands. Jamal Anderson is the guy I'm thinking of, where it basically took him 3 years before he could actually, perform a decent pass rush move. And I thought the same thing with Hageman. Hageman's been better this year than he was as a rookie, but this second half of the season, it's just he hasn't made the splash plays that he was making earlier in the year, where you would see him use the power and that explosiveness to knife into the backfield and blow up a running back. I think the last time he did that was maybe, I don't know, the first Tampa Bay game or something like that. So it's just been a while.
I've got some people on Twitter asking what is wrong with Matt Ryan, and is he really this bad?
I think he's part of it is he's not really comfortable in the system. The old offensive coordinators would always sort of use the no huddle to bail themselves out when the regular scheme wasn't working, and that was always their crutch. And Matt Ryan was always very effective at that. And Kyle Shanahan really hasn't used the no huddle all that much unless it's do or die sort of situation at the end of the games. And is also offensive line play has declined over the course of the season. Matt Ryan's getting hit a lot more. Gene mentioned it. They didn't have Gerald McCoy in the game, and William Golston is like rolling over our guards and stuff and running into Matt Ryan. So that's not a positive sign. Nothing against William Golston. He's a fine football player, but he shouldn't be, pancaking dudes. Right. And then, with all the new receivers besides Julio, Roddy falling off a cliff, we've talked about this before on the show. I think he's just out of his element, and, it's making him play badly, I guess.
See, but I don't know if he gets a pass for that. Because for me, I mean, you can say what you want. To me, Matt Ryan has always been average to a little bit above average. It's just when you have Tony Gonzalez, Julio, Roddy White in his prime, guys like Harry Douglas, and you got Michael Turner, who at that time was, a top 5 back in the backfield?
He was, yeah.
I can go out there and run that offense, and we're going to do something. Yeah. I just don't think – I think it was more – he's never going to be that guy that he's going to make the players around him better.
That's fair.
I just never seen that out of Matt Ryan.
Mm-hmm. You hate to use the term game manager, but, I mean, let's call a spade here. He's I mean, I'm not saying he is. I'm not saying that. But he's always had tremendous talent around him.
Yeah, absolutely.
He can't go out there and put the team on his shoulders and say, all right, let's go win this, and do that himself. Is that fair?
I think that's fair. I think you could say game manager. I think you could say that. But I think in years past, he was like the best version of what that term people like to use.
Okay.
He's not going to make the mistakes. And this year, you've seen him make a lot more sort of mental mistakes, a lot of bad throws, and it's led to all these turnovers. And this just isn't him, what he's been the last 7 years. And I think that's because, my only theory is, why is Matt Ryan making more of these mental mistakes than he used in the past? And it's because he has this new system, this new talent pool around him, and he's not comfortable with these guys. And so he's pressing a little bit more than what he used to be comfortable with. And so I think it's leading to some errors.
We'll be thinking, but like that last play, that wasn't Kyle Shanahan coming up with a crazy play call.
No.
Like, that pick was a basic understanding of what the cover 2 does, what the cover 2 is supposed to be doing. Like, I'm not a quarterback, but I know that in the cover 2, you're not supposed to throw it right there. I don't think you can. I understand most people are going to want to blame Kyle Shanahan, but how many people are you going to be able, you can't blame Mike Mularkey. You can't blame Mike Smith. You can't blame Dirk Cutter. You can't blame Kyle Shanahan. I mean, how many people do you have to run through before it's, hey, maybe it's Matt?
Well, it is Matt making those throws, but I don't think it necessarily means that, like, this is the player he always was, and the offensive coordinator was masking this. The point I'm trying to make is he wouldn't make that throw in any other year, but now he's pressing, and he's like, oh, Julio's one-on-one, and he's down the field, and it's minute 39 to go. I'm going to throw it up and try to make a big play when he doesn't need to make that play, because I think he's, for whatever reason, because, he's in a new system and he doesn't really, whatever. It's just, he's just pressing more now, and it's leading to mistakes.
And Freeman only ended up with 47 yards rushing.
Freeman hasn't looked good since that Niners game.
He hasn't looked good since the concussion. He had a concussion, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But I don't know if he just seems a little bit more apprehensive compared to how he was at the beginning of the season, where he wasn't afraid to hit the hole. But you don't see that same drive that you saw at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a huge factor. I think the fact that they have not been able to run the ball, or they've chosen not to run the ball like they did at the beginning of the year, that's really...
Now, is that scheme or is that just necessity?
No, that's just a decision.
I think to run the ball. They've been too close in most of those games not to run the ball a lot more than what they did.
Right, and I think that's... Well, there's been some times where... I can't really say that because they were leading in the fourth quarter of most of the games that they've lost, right?
Because they have been down like 28-0. You know what I mean? Where you understand why you abandon the run if you're down 21-0, 28-0.
Yes.
They most of the time the games was like 13-16 or 14-17, and you don't run the ball.
Right, there's no need to give up then.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, so I get it if you're down 3 touchdowns, but if you're down 3 points, you run the ball.
Yeah, there was about like 6. I did the math. There was like 16 plays where they were up against the Bucs in the second half of that game, and I think they passed the ball like 10 times to 6 runs or whatever the case may be. And it's a situation where you want to see them have a little bit more balance on their offense.
Right. You want to see them run it 10 times and throw it 6.
Run the ball. Try to demoralize them a little bit.
I got a Twitter fan asking how long is it going to take Atlanta to rebuild this? There are 4 weak areas: offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, and tight end. That there's a lot of holes that have to be filled.
They're already in year.
Was year 1 now for this quarterback?
For Dan Quinn, is year 1. For that organization, it's year 3 because they really
pretty much
years or what they were supposed to be facing. Now,
is that fair to say? You think, Aaron?
Well, to answer the question, I think it's probably going to take another 3 years. If I'm being honest,
think that's fair.
So it's just the problem is going to be because they have a new stadium being built. And he's trying to sell seats to that stadium, and he's got to, in order to sort of get people to buy seats, he's got to make it seem like they're trying to win right away, and so I think there's going to be a lot more pressure on them to sort of shorten that rebuilding process than.
I got a question for you. Do you think by any chance that Arthur Blank, if you guys turn around and lose like the rest of the games this season, that Arthur Blank decides to go complete overhaul?
Not Dan Quinn, but Kyle Shanahan will definitely be out the door.
Everybody, if you moving and breathing, you're gone.
Yeah, I think if they lose these next 4 games, or even 3 out of these next 4 games, I think Arthur Blank is going to insert himself. And I don't think it's going to affect Dan Quinn, but I think he'll make some ultimatums about you need to change offensive coordinators and get rid of, it's basically it's not going to be pretty. There's no positive will come out of it.
Well, see, my thinking is this. Okay, so what do you do with Thomas Dimitroff? Because he's been there. He's been there with the part of the drafts and all this.
They took away some of his power already.
Yeah,
I get it. Okay, and that still hasn't helped you. So, I mean, do you sort of think about removing him?
Well, some people think instead of if basically because Dan Quinn has expressed confidence in Kyle Shanahan, so it doesn't sound like he's ready to cut that cord. And so basically Arthur Blank needs to find a scapegoat for the collapse, and they'll blame it on Thomas Dimitroff, even though Thomas Dimitroff has nothing to do with them losing 5 games. It's just he screwed up several years of drafts in the past. So it's like, well, we probably should have fired you last year, but we didn't, so we'll fire you now.
See, I think if they lose the rest of his games, I think Shanahan's out the door. I don't think they're going to keep him after this. Because it's not like Kyle Shanahan, again, like I said last week, it's not like Kyle Shanahan has the best resume, you know what I'm saying? It's not like, I can see if it's his daddy, you might give him another year, 2 years.
Oh, the quarterback killer?
Wanted. This man is wanted.
He need to hand that title. Warren Sapp needs to hand that title to him, to Shanny, because that's the quarterback killer right there.
This man is wanted for the murder of young quarterbacks.
Yep.
Yeah, I think 3 years is fair. And Aaron, like I was saying, I think the model, and Gene has said this, the model for rebuilding a team or building a team that you only have scraps to start with is Dave Gettleman. His model that he did with the Carolina Panthers, how he sort of drafted and mixed in some veteran free agents who he knew he could get a little more out of on the cheap deals. And there may have only been 1 or 2 year players for the Panthers, but got a good couple of year or 2 years out of them, and they've moved on to bigger and better things, perhaps, i.e., Mike Mitchell.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Carolina is a shining example. I mean, they didn't go out and get a bunch of sexy free agents.
Mm-hmm.
They got guys that were going to come in and do their job, and they were able to. They had a coach, and they kept consistency. And you see. Absolutely, that's a big key too. Is they've drafted well.
But here's what's different why most can't do that. Gettleman, this is his first general manager job, but Gettleman's been a scout for 30 years. Not a lot of GMs can say that. So he can look at a Mike Mitchell who never played with the Raiders, probably barely in the film, and say, hey, he's gonna fit this team. He's gonna fit this defense. Yeah. You can look at a Kurt Coleman who. Really, the only thing I remember Kurt Coleman doing is getting ran over by somebody. Who was that? Somebody ran him over and his helmet came off.
Yeah. Who was it? Trent Richardson?
It was Trent Richardson. His rookie year ran him over and his helmet went the whole other way. That's about the only thing I remember from Kurt Coleman before. And being on that Dream Team Eagles game that gave up 150 points.
Oh, Jesus, they were terrible.
Wow.
But, so, I mean, I think that's the difference is he knows what's going to fit this team. And the relationship between Gettleman and Ron. I never really see them disagree on too much.
Right. Well, Ron knows that Gettleman knows, and Gettleman knows that Ron's played and, has the being in the locker room as a player experience. So I think that's such a great thing between the two of them.
Now, if I was an Atlanta fan, my biggest concern would be finding the balance of rebuilding my offense, the line, the tight ends, and all that. You have to give Dan Quinn a chance to put his defense in.
Together,
to play that Seattle defense, you have to have special players to do it.
Absolutely.
They don't have a Earl Thomas right now. They don't have a Bobby Wagner, a KJ Wright at the linebackers. They don't have a Michael Bennett, Cliff Abel.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think it's gonna be hard for them, and that's why I can agree with 3 years, why it's going to take them so long, because you have to find that balance of letting him put that defense in that he wants to do and getting what you need on offense.
And the key is going to be to make sure you don't succumb to fan pressure. Make sure you stay the course and back your administration that you put in place. Yeah. That's the key. Because, I know I've mentioned this on a couple of shows, when all the fans, well, not the real fans, but the casual Carolina fans wanted Ron Rivera gone, the ownership didn't listen to that. They stayed the course, and it paid off.
And not just that, some of the decisions we made. Letting Steve Smith go. Letting D'Angelo Williams go. Guys that you can't hold on to the past for too long after they're not producing. Right. I mean, Smitty was producing. He's still producing now, but the injuries have taken his toll. He's been hurt every year. Yeah. So I think that comes with a balance, too. And the biggest example of that with the Falcons will be, do you keep Roddy White after this year, or do you let him go?
No, he's got to be out.
I would keep him out.
There's no doubt about it. You bring him on as maybe a coach, but that's the only capacity he stays in that team.
I do have kind of a hearsay question. Was Julio Jones truly upset about the play calling in the Bucs game, or is that just rumor?
I've heard that he was upset, and watching the tape, I don't get why I guess he was upset because he didn't get any throws in the end zone. But there was a play early in that first red zone play. They tried to run a drag route with him, and he was going to score if he caught the ball. But Tony McDaniel bat down the pass, and that pretty much killed it. And then, so I don't know what's going on with Julio. He's probably frustrated because he's not doing what he was doing earlier in the year. So.
Sure.
Yeah. But honestly, I just hope he's not succumbing to Roddy White and what Roddy White's talking about not being part of the offense. That's something that I would kind of worry about being affected by that.
But really, to me, it's always been a question about the Falcons. Because, I mean, Julio gets yards for days. But I never really remember Julio having an outstanding touchdown number. I usually remember him having, 6, 4, 8, somewhere around there. It's not like, I mean, Aaron, you correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember Julio having a 10, 15 touchdown year.
I think he had it in 2012. I think he had 10 touchdowns.
Yeah,
one of those
was his career high.
Yeah, but since then it's been like 6. 6.
Yeah. Well, a guy his caliber should be scoring way more touchdowns.
Right, he should be a 14, 16 touchdown guy per season.
I mean, he should be doing that sleeping. He should be doing 14, 15 sleeping at this point. You know what I mean?
Especially when you don't have a tight end. So, I mean, where's all the red zone targets going? Roddy, besides this year?
Last year it was Roddy. Everybody was paying attention to Julio, and they would sneak Roddy on a pick route. And Roddy, I think, led the team in with 7 touchdowns last year, and they were all like pick routes, basically. That's all they were. Mm-hmm. This year, it's just, basically when we're not turning the ball over in the red zone, Julio's not getting targets in the end zone. So it's basically they're running these they're just not throwing the ball in the end zone. And when they do, it gets.
Yeah, I remember one of his touchdowns earlier. They threw a little quick pass, and he had to do all the work. I can't remember what game that was, but he juked somebody and then got in the end zone.
Yeah, it was. Was it the Eagles? I think you're talking about the Eagles game.
Yeah, I can't remember what game it is. I just remember the play. They threw a little quick pass to him. He juked the defender and got in.
Well, I know this is we could talk about this game forever. It was a good win for Tampa. It was another loss for the Falcons. They're really struggling right now. I think morale is an issue. All kinds of problems. Next week, the Bucs take on New Orleans, and the Panthers are taking on the Falcons. So we'll address the scores after we get through the Panthers-Saints game, which was if you got a chance to watch that game, you saw one heck of a football game.
That was a slobber knocker right there.
It was exciting. It was the cardiac cats at their very best. You couldn't sit down. I know I didn't sit down. I think I sat down at halftime. But during the actual game, I never sat down. I was standing up, pacing my living room, walking around in the living room. I was into it. It was very intense. First thing I want to say is, where has this Saints team been all year?
They show up in spurts. That's
they only show up in the Superdome.
Yeah, they show up
good Lord, they played good. I mean, they really brought it.
I mean, that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. That's frustrating about it because we know that they're capable of playing well. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's so many flaws in that game on their end, especially on the defensive end, because the defense played fairly decent, especially early on, and then they kind of reverted to with the penalties and the missed assignments and stuff like that. And they kind of reverted right back to some of that stuff. And I mean, a lot of people were pretty pissed with Brandon Browner, because he just constantly kept getting burned.
He was our best player.
He missed the assignment. Yeah, because he missed that assignment. The one touchdown, I think it was. I think Ginn got it right in between because he allowed Ginn to slide through, and Bird didn't come over at the time. But it really should have been. It should have been Browner's guy, and let him just pretty much catch a fairly wide open touchdown. I mean, the one that Ginn caught across the middle on a little post route there, when they had Stephen Anthony on them. I don't know what the hell that play design was. I mean, because don't get me wrong, because I mean, like a friend of mine, he hits me up on Facebook and he says that Anthony gave up on the play. I said, well, no. Anthony didn't give up on the play.
What's
Anthony is a fair
doing?
linebacker. But you talking about Ted Ginn, who's like one of the fastest freaking dudes in the league.
Yeah. What's he doing covering Ginn? Exactly.
When I was
You know-
watching it wasn't on Anthony, really. It was on Kyle Wilson.
It was on Kyle Wilson. Kyle Wilson was supposed to have came over. He fell asleep, allowed him to get way too deep, and then it was it. And that's what it came down to, you know. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, you know, I mean, I was trying to figure out, I'm like, what the hell kind of play design was that? That Anthony's supposed to be even on again in the first place. You know what I mean? I mean, like, that shouldn't have happened. Huh?
I blame Rob Ryan.
Yeah. I mean, that shouldn't have even happened. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, Anthony is a quick dude, but he ain't that fast.
It wasn't a play call, though. Really, Anthony should have had him in the middle of the field, and when he ran all the way out, he should have transferred him, and Wilson should have been there.
Wilson should have been on him right there. Right. Wilson should have been over the top of him anyway, and then that would have never happened.
Right. They had him bracketed, but the bracket was awful.
Well, it wasn't a bracket. If it was a bracket, Wilson would have been over the top of him. It wasn't a bracket.
Exactly. It should have been. It should have been.
He picked it to the damn backfield instead of doing his job and watching what was happening out there in this area.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. It's the mental lapses. It's the mental. That's why, like I said, sometimes it's hard for me to defend on that that they don't have nearly as many players, as much talent as they say. It's just more the mental stuff. It's the dumb stuff. I see them, you know, I just see all the dumb mistakes that they on plays they make, more than just that they're too slow or, you know what I'm saying, that type of deal.
Here we go, Greg. I got somebody on Twitter that says, this is the second time where New Orleans' offensive line got worked the week before and then came in and completely shut the Panthers' pass rush down. Why
I don't know
why didn't Breeze have a better game? What's that?
I don't know whoever sent that what game we were watching. We were getting back there, just Breeze footwork.
Yeah. I mean, Breeze had pretty good footwork. He pretty much, you know, he knew how to move it, slide into the pocket. He had enough room to do that. I mean, you guys got a couple of sacks on him. You know, you did sack him.
We didn't get the pressure that we normally get.
Right.
Or that, you know, like the week before that you gave up.
Right.
What was
part of it? I mean, Andres Pete played a lot better this week. The rookie, and because last week was his first game at guard, and he played pretty fresh. But then also Tim, who was hurt, Jari Evans was out of that game as well, so he didn't even play.
I was going to ask you about Pete playing guard. Do you like that? Because he's a big dude.
He's a big dude.
He's a big man.
He's a big dude. I mean, he didn't, because he just really just started kind of at the guard position. But I mean, Payton wasn't necessarily all that happy with Lolito and Clemente playing, so he wanted to put him in, and he was going to put him in with Jari. But then Jari got hurt, so now you got, you know, basically now you pretty much got a patchwork line. But, you know, whatever Payton did, he got them together to where they could play well enough that Breeze can get the ball off, you know, get the ball where he needed to go, and they can do some work, you know. So,
I wanted to ask you a question. Did you see much of Starr in that game?
Starr, I think he's still bothered by the injuries, but I mean, he'll show up for a little bit. It's either he shows up totally and dominate, or he doesn't show up at all. But I mean,
I remember seeing mostly Love and Daquan Edwards and KK at the tackle positions.
Starr played, he just didn't do much.
Right, and I don't think he played a whole lot.
Yeah, I do remember seeing Love in there a lot.
Love and KK, and then I saw Edwards a couple times.
With Starr, though, honestly, I don't care if he sat him until playoffs, honestly. Because his biggest thing, he's never going to be that he's going to be getting a whole bunch of tackles, a whole bunch of sacks. His biggest thing is just keep them linemen off a loop.
Right. Let the linebackers stay free to make plays.
He blocks, eat blocks mostly, what you're saying.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
Payton had such a great game plan.
I thought
and you know, you guys played so well. I just don't see why you can't do it why can't you get up like that every week and make it a competition in the NFC South, because really it's not.
I
You
don't
guys
know.
are.
I think you're giving them a little bit too much credit.
Well, they were ready for. I'm talking about this one game. They were pumped. They were focused.
We had some of the flukiest stuff happen in that game. That whole Stephon Anthony touchdown that nobody knows it's a touchdown except for
Yeah,
Stephon.
that was kind of fluky. Yeah.
I mean,
But at the same time, if you look at it, there were a lot of penalties against them, against New Orleans, that kept drives alive for us.
I mean, that's their fault. They signed Brandon Brown, and we
right. Yeah, I won't argue that, but what I'm saying is that's the kind of game it was where if we wouldn't have gotten those penalties, those drives would have been stopped and we'd have kicked the ball.
But that's but
here it is, Joe.
It's like
that happens. Every team that probably played New Orleans this year probably could say the same
thing. You might be right.
Because if they didn't get those penalties, a lot of those guys stayed alive when they never stayed alive.
Right. You might have a point there. Browner is the most penalized cornerback, I think, or defensive back in the league this year.
In history.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Clearly. Yeah, he's like making history with all these.
He broke his own record for.
Go ahead, Aaron.
I was just going to say, you got to give the Saints some credit because, obviously the Panthers didn't have the greatest start, and that helped the Saints get out to that early lead. Mm-hmm. But then there was a point where the Panthers started to, take the lead, and I remember tweeting like, oh, it's a wrap. And then the Saints came back. So they stayed in the game. And so I think, Joe, your point with you got to give the Saints some credit because they could have just laid down and died at that point. I think they were down like two scores in the second or third quarter. I can't remember.
Yeah. And they kept fighting.
Yeah.
They kept fighting. Here's another tweet from someone. They're saying, is Stephon Anthony a Defensive Rookie of the Year candidate with 92 tackles, a touchdown return, and blocked field goal return for the 2 points, first time ever in NFL history, all in one game? Obviously not for 92 tackles. But
right. But he probably could be. I don't know exactly who they got it this year as a Defensive Rookie of the Year this year. I was somewhere in that mix.
I heard Marcus Peters from some people.
He was really good player.
I think he's a candidate, but if I was voting right now, I'm going to have to give it to hit the Quan Alexander.
From Tampa?
Yeah, I think he's been a bad boy this year, man.
Yeah, he has come in and made a big impact. But honestly, so has Anthony for the Saints. He's really been probably their best defensive player as a rookie.
He's been one of them. He's been one of them.
I think he would definitely be in the top 5, maybe top 3.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's in the top 5. I don't think he's necessarily 1 or 2. But maybe
he's up there.
I think the difference is just Quan's been making so many game-changing plays.
Yeah, right. He's actually affected the outcome. Yeah.
You're talking about a guy that's got 93 tackles, 59 solo. How many sacks?
Quan's got that 3-game suspension now.
Yeah, he's done. He's done for the rest of the season.
Yeah, he's done for the rest of the year pretty much unless you make the playoffs.
Yeah, so the question is, that's my whole thing. Does Marcus Peters do enough to pass him in these last 4 weeks?
Yeah, because Peters is a good player. Don't get me wrong. I would not have a problem if he lost the award or whatever to Peters. Because Peters has played well. I think that kid has been very impressive.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was a great game between the Saints and the Panthers. I knew it was going to be close. I didn't think it would be that close. We're so familiar with one another. It's a division game. Teams just get hyped. And then the Panthers being undefeated, that bullseye on their back is just huge. Yeah, everybody wants to be that first team.
I think they reminded us of our biggest concerns that I still have right now. First of all, Colin Jones and Brandon Brown. Colin Jones couldn't cover Oprah right now, bro. Like anybody can get past him. He's frustrating, and then Rome a dog, but I don't be knowing what he be seeing sometimes. Like,
so how will Cortland Finnegan fit into that defense?
Well, he played. He was on the field, and he had a shot in the interception. It just smacked him in the face.
kick he dropped. Oh my God!
Yeah.
It was a touchdown. He could have walked in for a touchdown.
Yes. He played
He played pretty
for.
good.
I thought he played pretty good considering how long he's been away. And, he's only going to get better once he gets back into it. And he will definitely be a step up over Colin Jones in a big, big way. So it was a good move for us. It was definitely a move we had to make.
Yeah, for right now, he'll be that number 3 corner, and he'll go down to number 4 once Charles Tillman comes back.
Exactly.
He might come back this week. He might not.
Right. And he's another guy I think the Panthers might be able to put, let's say off the field until the playoffs.
Yeah,
That way he can heal up,
Yeah, as long as Cortland's playing good, I wouldn't mind that.
Right.
Colin Jones isn't a corner anyway.
He's a safety, yeah, for sure. I think that was my favorite game of the year to this point. As close as it was, I gotta say, I think that was my favorite game of the year. And it was against a team that many people thought we should have walked all over and wiped the floor with them. But that just goes to show you that's why they play the games.
Yeah.
So now let me ask this. We'll start with the Tampa game next week. Tampa and New Orleans, and they're in New Orleans. I think.
In Tampa.
They're in Tampa.
Okay. Here.
Who? They're at your house, right, Greg? Who walks away the winner in that one? Go ahead, Aaron. You first.
Ooh, that's tough. If I'm judging by last week's game, I'd probably take New Orleans, but New Orleans is so up and down. I'll probably go with Tampa. I think they're starting to get the ball rolling, and they'll end up winning the game. Score-wise, probably like 27-20 or something like that.
Yeah, sounds about right. What do you think, T-Money?
I got Tampa in that game. First of all, New Orleans is not the same team on the road, and today they just lost Mark Ingram for the rest of the season with a shoulder injury.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Well, I mean, the hits keep on coming,
Yeah, for sure. One of those.
Honestly, keeping it 100, don't be surprised if Tampa don't sneak in that last wild card spot. No,
it's not a surprise. It's definitely not a surprise. Like I said, I mean, that's why I said if they make the playoffs, Quan still got rest of the season. But I mean, Tampa could very well make that spot.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, nobody's playing consistently enough to lock it down.
Right.
So anything can happen.
Yeah, which I think, if I remember looking at it right, they would be on our side of the bracket. So that would be interesting to have a third game in the playoff.
It would be.
I think they'll have, if they do, they might have whoever loses that NFC North division, I think, the way it's looking right now.
Yeah.
Well, you got a score on the Saints Bucks game?
It's not gonna be a shootout, but I think it's gonna be in the 20s. I'm gonna say 24-21 with Jameis pulling some magic on the last drive for the field goal.
That'd be a good game right there. All right, I'll start with Gene since you're at home. What do you see happening in this game?
I see Tampa winning, but it's going to be a close game. Everybody keeps talking about how Drew Brees has kind of lost in touch. He's not the same Drew Brees that he was, but he could still light your ass up if he needs to, And you can't overlook the Saints because they're still a dangerous team. Yeah. So I see the Bucks. I see this being a high scoring game. Their defense, our defense, it'll be in the 20s. I think it'll be something like 28-21.
All right.
And yeah, so it'll be one of those high scoring games. Yeah, we'll definitely see some points. And to go along with what everybody was talking about, I have been saying this: the Bucks have, the Saints, the Rams, the Bears, and then the Panthers. So it's going to be a favorable schedule. I think a lot of those games are winnable, and just depending on which Buccaneers team shows up. If it's a team that has all the penalties or if it's a team that plays disciplined football, these are all winnable games.
At the very least, y'all should win 2 of those games.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. The Rams on Thursday Night Football. The Rams without an offense.
They're
That's
a mess.
yeah, that's so there's a lot to look forward to. Just hopefully the Bucks can stay focused and work on winning games and not look forward to the next game
Right.
and not walk in, because I really do believe that Colts game, the Bucks walked in, thought they were going to get handed that game, and it didn't go that way. So hopefully they can focus on that game and get that win and get to the next one.
All right.
Real quick, with Quan not playing, who's gonna fill in that middle linebacker?
They re-signed Ori Allen, and I think Carter may. I'm not sure. I haven't seen the final roster, but I know they're going to pull a couple of guys up off the practice squad. And I've been having this. Everybody's been talking about Levante David, and in the beginning of the season they say his play had fell off. I didn't think it did. I thought it was more, you got Quan Alexander, who's an upgrade over a Mason Foster. So you have a better quality of play. And to me, it took away some of the plays that Levante David would have normally got. But I don't know. We'll see if this holds true with whoever Levante's playing next to next week and the weeks to follow.
All right. Greg, we want to hear your thoughts.
Well, I'm going to rep my team. I'm going to go 26-21 Saints. Saints are going to come in and win that game. 26-21.
All right. Close score, and the way they played last week, if they bring any sort of momentum like they had last week, then yeah, it'll be one heck of a ball game.
Well, I mean, they're not going to play necessarily disciplined ball. We know that they're going to get penalties and everything else. But I think that the fact that they play Tampa close all the time anyway. I mean, they always
it's a division game,
right?
It's a division game, and it's always a close game. It's always tight, and I think that we could have won the last one, and we just didn't. We just didn't make the plays that we needed to make. We missed a couple of things there. It actually would have been a different game. But anyway, this one right here, I think Saints win it. I'm going to say that can't get swept by you.
Right. I wouldn't expect anything less. I think the Bucks take this one in a really close game, where there is some scoring. I think it's going to be 28-27 Tampa in a real tight one. And then we have the Falcons and the Panthers going at it this week. And I'll start with the two guys that aren't interested in the game, or at least not as interested. Greg, go ahead. Tell us your score and who wins in this one.
Panthers, Falcons. I mean, it is a division game. I'm going to say 27-20 Panthers.
All right. That seems real.
Yeah, I believe that. I mean, unless they're, like I said, unless there's quite a couple of turnovers here and there.
Right.
Early on, it can be ugly.
All right, Gene, what about you?
I would say 35-14 Panthers.
All right, so you think it's going to be?
I think the secondary. I think the secondary is going to play a little bit better than they did the last game. I think you'll see some turnovers. I'm sorry, I just don't see where Atlanta's improving, showing any improvement.
Right.
And hopefully they do win some games, and all the NFC South looks good. But this particular game, I just think that Carolina is on a mission to shut up all the naysayers, and I think that they'll win this game.
Well, I like that score. I like that score a lot, Gene. I'm okay with that. What about you, Aaron? I know you don't like that score one bit.
Well, I think one of these Falcon-Panthers games is going to be a blowout, and even though the score is going to make it sound like this game is going to be the blowout, I don't think this game is going to be the blowout. I think the Panthers are going to probably win like 30-17, and I think this other upcoming game could get really out of hand. So I hope the Falcons are competitive this week, but based off of the way they played the last like 6 or so games, they really don't have anything that they can throw at Carolina that's gonna make a difference. So
Wow, that's some doom and gloom right there, brother.
I gotta speak the truth, my friend.
I hear you. All right, T-Money, Mr. 1993. What do you got to say about this game here?
Aaron actually took the words right out of my mouth. I was gonna say 31-10, 31-17. And then the second one was crazy. But yeah, this one I think we're gonna win pretty handily. Honestly, the best weapon for the Falcons to score points may be Devin Hester in the return.
That's what I was thinking. That's exactly what I was thinking. They could maybe sneak in and score on special teams because Hester can get, he can still move.
Can we get 5 of them? Yeah, that's because we're gonna need the
I don't think our special teams are that bad.
Shoot, we gonna pull a John Casey and just start kicking out of bounds.
Exactly right. We have to. No, I think the game, there's always going to be a level of competitiveness just because of familiarity. So I think this one is not as close as the Saints game, but closer than some people may want it to be. So I see the Panthers winning this one 27-17.
My biggest question for anybody and I even said in my video for the Falcons fans that do think that they're going to pull off this upset or that it's going to be really close. You lost every game in the division. Why would you beat the best team as your first division?
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. It really is a good point.
If you can answer that, then we can have a further discussion.
Right. I guess that's true. Well, guys, I appreciate you coming on. We got a late start today, but we ran over a little bit. I think we got to cover some good stuff. I feel like I've got a little more insight onto some of these teams and what direction they're headed in. Anybody have anything you want to add before we say goodnight?
I will have my show on Thursday, Buck What You Heard, and my special guest will be Princess Nikki, who will be at the Tampa Saints game. So be sure to check that out, and we'll definitely be talking some football. We'll talk about the game that I went to, and we'll definitely be looking forward to this game, as well as the game on Thursday for the St. Louis Rams Buccaneers game coming up.
Yeah, I should be at that game as well. So.
Oh, this weekend or the Rams game?
No, this weekend.
No,
game.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. You'll definitely be there, Greg. Totally see your team. All right, well, guys, I'll give you a chance to plug yourselves one more time before we get out of here. We'll start with you, Aaron.
You can find me on Twitter at FalcFan. Sorry. Sorry, something came on. You can find me on Twitter at FalcFans. The show that I do with Scott, Falcon Central Radio, got rescheduled from Tuesday. We're going to do it tomorrow night on Thursday. So if you guys want to check that out, follow me on Twitter, and we'll tweet it out. And you can find 2 episodes on the Falcoholic podcast on falcfans.com. One posted today, and one's going to be posted tomorrow morning. So check those out as well.
All right. And go ahead, Gene. Tell them the name of the show.
Huh?
Tell them the name of your podcast.
My podcast is called Buck What You Heard.
Okay.
And we talk football. Sometimes I may slip in a little wrestling depending on who I'm on the show with, but for the most part, we do talk Bucks football. And I've been trying to get guests from the different teams that we face.
Mm-hmm.
And every so often I hit a home run. So hopefully this week with Princess Nikki being in Tampa for that game, it's going to be kind of exciting to get her perspective on things.
Yeah, and she knows football, guys. This isn't just a girl that comes on and looks pretty. This girl knows football.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Greg, go ahead and let them know where they can reach you at.
Well, you can reach me at IntenseGV on Twitter. They're pretty much, like I said, I'm always around all the time, so feel free to follow. And yeah, and yes, I talk a little wrestling as well, and a little basketball and everything else too. So, yeah, I'm around.
And last but not least, go ahead, T Money.
It's Mr. T Money 1993, aka your boy Straight Facts, because that's all I speak in this YouTube thing. The Twitter is Mr. T Money 1993, and that's the YouTube. Go check out the Falcons Hate Week video. Just dropped it tonight. Twitter is T Muhammad 23, and shout out to Scott, man, the best football mind this show has ever seen.
All right, all right. Well, I am Joe Rilano. This is Southbound and Down, the premier NFC South podcast. Catch us next week, same time, same channel, and be sure to check out our website if you're a Panthers fan. It's CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where all the hottest fan takes you will find right there. Thanks to our amazing staff. I appreciate it, guys. Everyone have a wonderful night. We'll see you next week.